For decades, artist George Scatchard created stoneware lamps in his Underhill studio.
As I learned on this week's Made in Vermont, there's a new team in charge of the housewares. On Route 15 in Underhill sits George Scatchard pottery. Having driven by it for years, I reached out to the artist, famous for his stoneware lamps. As it turns out, George Scatchard passed away in November of 2023. But a business in Hyde Park is carrying on his legacy. Though he no longer makes them himself, new George Scatchard lamps are being made every day.
All of George's clay, his designs, his recipes.
That's Steve Miller, a longtime employee at House of Troy. The Hyde Park business bought the rights to G. Scatchard lamps in 2012, and that's about when Miller started shadowing the maker himself.
It was a big thrill to get to learn from George. Had a great opportunity to learn from a master that knew quite a lot.
For Miller and the small team carrying on Scatchard's legacy, these products are a point of pride.
His lamps will last for thousands of years, especially because they're made from stone once they're fired and come out of the kiln.
And it all starts with bags of clay. This team burns through 450 pounds per week. They add water to make what's called a slip, and that's when the fun starts. After filtering, the slip gets hosed into molds, and that's where time proves to be tricky.
So if we pour 56 or 58 lamps in a day, we have to plan on trimming that many the next day.
Once they have a cast, the molds are trimmed, dried, and glazed.
They're all hand glazed by a brush and a syringe, and because of that, each lamp has its own swirls, its own colors in it, its own, if you would, flavor to it. There's almost an impossibility that each lamp will come out exactly the same.
Then they go into a reduction kiln for 18 hours at 2,300 degrees.
And it takes it 22 hours to cool down before we can open the door to be able to handle the lamps and remove them.
What comes out is often entirely different than what goes in. The chemistry of the colors is something Scatchard perfected himself, and this team doesn't stray from the recipe. With 28 colors and 38 models, the only thing that's changed over the years is the number of lamps this team turns out.
Our volume has gone from around 4,500 when we first started working for George. We're over 6,000 lamps at this point.
The assembly team installs the rest of the parts and pieces to be sold across the U.S. and Canada. As they work to carry on Scatchard's legacy, the care and attention from this team is second to none.
Love doing George's lamps. Have told him from the beginning, I hope I can always continue to do his lamps for as long as I possibly can.
A labor of love and made in Vermont. For the Channel 3 News, I'm Alyssa Borden, made in Hyde Park, Vermont.